Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we've got a really cool top 10 video. It is top 10 rogue decks heading into new formats of Yu-Gi-Oh! Or just current Yu-Gi-Oh! In general. I think a lot of these decks will apply potentially for formats to come, depending on where we end up with ban lists and stuff like that and in new products. But really like them. This is just 10. They are not in a specific order, but these are just 10 decks that I really feel like have something to them that give them a really strong factor to be able to compete this format. And let's face it, we've seen a lot of power creep as of late. Tier and Sprite seem to be by far and away the best decks. So if you're like me and you don't really like playing the same thing everybody else is, you gotta find solace in something else. So that's the idea here. If you want to check out the video I posted a couple days ago talking about what factors you need to consider, it's basically, can you play Shifter? Do you have access to non-destruction removal? Or send to grave removal, right? Like stuff like that to handle tier, to handle that. Don't lose it. Don't lose to Bestial or Cash Tier of Fenrir. All that kind of stuff. Go way more in depth in that video, but today, let's just jump into this thing. We've got 10 to go through. I'm not spending a ton of time on any one thing, but let's go. Starting off, Weather Painters. I think the biggest thing here is the engine is much stronger than it was before. I still wish they actually set up an inherent interruption. They really don't, which is the biggest kicker for me. If they had access to like a legit, really good interruption with like a one-card combo that's just like a simple interruption, I'd love them so much more, but they can play Shifter. They can play insane floodgates like Macrocosmos, Dimensional Fissure, your skill drains of the world. They can play some really, really crazy stuff, and I think because of that, they're really quite good. They also don't put their monsters in grave all that often, so Bestials, and also you don't even have to put the wrong attribute in grave at all, so they don't lose to Bestials or anything like that. Fenrir, definitely annoying for this deck, but, Fenrir's, I would have trouble kind of being like, what? Give me a deck that isn't annoyed by Fenrir. Like, Fenrir annoys everything. But yeah, still really solid, all things considered. Moving on from there, Sword Soul. You got to throw it out there. It's a solid deck. It plays really no lights or darks unless you consider the 10E package. But let's be honest, the 10E package is more of a secondary engine to the main Sword Soul stuff. So that stuff technically makes Bestials live, but you don't straight up lose to Bestials in this deck. It's still a decent rogue deck. You got to respect it. So yeah, I think it definitely deserves to be on here. Next up, we have Labyrinth, really cool trap deck that is on the up and up. We have this card, and then we're also going to have another new card in Photon Hypernova. So this is even one where I look down the line and I say, this one could be, even further on the up and up. By the way, while we're here, shout out to Trap Trick. I think Trap Trick would be on a list when the structure deck comes out because, again, not a light or dark deck. It has non-send to grave removal for Tearlaments. And I think it has some cool matchups. But yeah, Labyrinth is really cool. It has a lot of really good removal. It has so much more flexible plays, more the ability to push for more damage, which is really nice. I like it. I think it's just like one of the best trap decks in the game. So if you're big into trap decks, this is definitely one of the best ones. Next up would be the plant deck. So this is whatever you want to call it. The Rika, Sun Avalon plant deck. I like this version more than like the Wombo combo Sun Avalon deck, but you could also throw that one in here as well. I think you're more prone to play a lighter dark or two in there to make Bestials live, which I don't love. So I like this variant because it's mostly just Sun Avalon and Rika stuff purely, and no lights or darks there, if I believe. So kind of handles those things, which is really cool. But yeah, it's a really cool deck. I still think it's really solid. So yeah, I think it's a pretty solid pick. Draco Slayers, yeah, I think they're good enough to consider for this list. I think they have a really good combo going first. I don't love that they feel really fragile, just like how pendulum decks do. You have 2-card combos where you use one of the scales to pop the other, and that kind of kickstarts your play. If your opponent has any way to pop a scale in response or banish it, even worse, like Cosmic Cyclone, a lot of times you are just screwed because you've already used the effect of the one in scale. You've lost that, and if they removed the other one in scale without destroying it, you don't get that float either. So you can just be in a horrible predicament. They just have some pretty brutal choke points. I will say I do think they have multiple lines where they can go into some really crazy end boards. So there's push and pull here, right? It's powerful, but it feels like it needs to go first. Feels like if you go second, you see too many side get cards. It's always a problem. That's always been a pendulum thing because you need to see multiple cards for combos. So if you see 2, maybe 3 side cards going second, you may not have enough to play with the pen cards you draw. So definitely, I still think it's good, but I need to see more. I need to see if people really need to just test more and figure out like the right way to build it. But so far, it looks okay, not amazing, but I still think good enough for rogue level. Next up is Therian, and this one's kind of funky because I would actually put this as like a pure Therian build. I saw somebody top, was it Utrecht? I think it might have been YCS Utrecht with like a pretty pure Therian build. It's a really cool deck. It's like a mid-range deck where you just get a ton of resources off the Therians. It grinds really well. They're big. They can run over stuff really well. I do have questions about Bestial. That's like my one question with this deck is do we put lights and darks that are crucial in grave? I'd have to do more digging on that. But I still think regardless, this was like, it's a respectable enough deck. You can set up Omni Negates with it. Right, you can set up the bounce with the Fam. Is Fam the name of it? The Aqua one. Really cool plays with it altogether. So big fan of this deck. It's really cool. Marincess, it's a very, spoiler. It's a very graveyard-centric deck, but it's all water, so Bestials are almost entirely turned off versus this deck, which is awesome. I love that. The deck's kind of been power crept a little bit. It definitely doesn't feel as powerful as the best decks in the game, but I think it's good enough. You play enough hand traps, enough. It does have a lot of space for flex cards, whether you want floodgates, powerful hand traps, board breakers going second. You do have a lot of space, and that can definitely cover up a lot of boo-boos for a deck that's a little bit weaker than some of the other decks in the format. But I still like this pick quite a lot, actually, if you're looking for like a good rogue deck. Next up is Madolche. I like this one a lot as well. This one in particular, this one and one other deck we'll get to in a sec, I particularly like post Magnificent Mavens because I think this deck actually makes a really good use of the Ishizu fairies as well. One of the few decks that do. Gravekeeper's Trap searches any Earth Fairy, which includes Madolche and Jelly. So if you get access to that off of Mudora before your normal summon, which Mudora can special itself, you discard an Earth Fairy, so cool. And then you can just like search Angeli and normal it, and that's one card combo. So, plus the Vernisylphs, the new Vernisylph cards are awesome. Potentially playing Orange Light in the list is really cool. You can potentially do a build where you play Shifter, but to be honest, if you play the Ishizu cards and you play the Vernisylphs, it makes the Shifter play a little bit worse there. So I don't know exactly where you end up, where most people end up on that, but it's still an insane card that passes turn. So maybe going second, you might want to play it. I don't know. Here we go. Naturia, another one. This is the other one that I would say fits into that same mold. I do think you could play a respectable list with just the Vernisylph cards, but I'll be honest. The Ishizu cards take this deck to the next level. I think this is one of the best rogue decks post Magnificent Mavens. Milling stuff like your Mole Cricket. Milling the Naturia trap card to just get a free search. Very, very good mills in this deck. Very, very cool synergy. The Vernisylphs are great. The Ishizu fairies have awesome synergy. I really think this deck is really cool, and it has like a lot of tools to like inherently go second, just with a lot of the like package cards, the engine cards, without being too scared. Mole Cricket is insane. Absolutely insane. I think I saw a combo the other day, like just a basic combo, like when I was trying to get just like a vibe for how much value Mole Cricket himself gets you. He like by himself is like, what is it? He's like a Nat Beast plus a Monster Negate. Just normal summon him. That's what he gets you. Actually crazy. Oh my gosh, that's insane. And the final one I have here, number 10, is Zephyr's. You guys know I love Zephyr. You guys know I'm totally biased versus Zephyr, but man, I'm looking at matchups across the format right now, and Zephyrs just feel kind of insane. We don't really put darks or lights in the graveyard unless you specifically play like a variant that plays like a combo that would play into that. So we don't care about the Bestials. This deck going first is broken versus sprites. If you set up your path, Zephyr path, they cannot summon from grave or deck. So no gigantic sprite. No no sprite elf effect to reborn from grave. No nimble angler to summon 2 names from deck. Like literally you cut them off of like almost everything. Now I will say the runic matchup may be more annoying. But if they can't, but you also have protection on your back row from a destruction from Providence, so they would have to have 2 outs to your stuff. And yeah, like the deck's crazy. The deck will almost assuredly have a way to out the field spell if you're going first. Like, I do think it has some really nice matchups. It really wants to go first, but this is a deck that can play Shifter. We've talked about this. Shifter's just insane at giving your deck a chance going second. This deck isn't the most sturdy deck playing going into interruptions, but if you're shifting your opponent, if you're hitting them with the big time hand traps, playing Gamma, playing Shifter, you could actually have an easier path playing second than you might realize. Also, I think Lava Golem in the main is a potential play for this deck as well. So kind of a lot going on there, but I really do think this is like a really understated deck that even when it was like crazy good, even a couple formats ago, nobody played it. I think it's actually pretty respectable now. Nobody plays it. I'd love to see more people play it. I think they should play it. So yeah, those are my thoughts there. But there you go. Those are my 10. Going right through them just at the end of the video here. Zephyr, Naturia, Madolche, Marine Cess, Therians, Draco Slayer, Rika, or the plant deck in general, Labyrinth, Sword Soul, and Weather Painters. Weather Painters, I'll be honest, is the most fringe one here. I totally get if you would take them off here, but I really do think just the fact that they can play like some of the most insane floodgate cards in the game, like really allows them to like win duels, steal games. This is definitely a deck that could top a regional, in my opinion. But yeah. That's it for today, I'm out of here. Definitely let me know your thoughts down in the comment section down below. Let me know what other decks that you believe are some of the better rogue decks in the game right now and why relative to the format, to tier, to sprite, some of the more played cards. Love to hear your thoughts down below on that. This is just my opinion. But I'm out of here for today. Thank you so much for watching. As always, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more stuff from your boy down the line. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.